Welcome to another episode of MoloMolo Tech Talk. I'm Dr. PK and this is Anele. Welcome to another Friday. Oh, actually, it's a Thursday. Excuse me. Tomorrow is Easter. Anele, how are we doing?
I'm great. This is the Fridayest Thursday
Oh, goodness. Yes,
I've
tell
had
me.
in a long time.
Okay, tell us. What is that supposed to mean, Anele?
It just feels like pins down right now. Well, we're going into the Easter weekend, so
Correct.
I guess happy Easter to everybody.
Yeah, man.
And
Indeed.
yeah, and I see you've been traveling quite a bit. I'm actually more interested in your jet setter stories for the past few weeks. You went to a conference. When was it? Last week, and you were talking about all these drones that you saw there, and I was fascinated myself because I do like drones, and I'm really
Nice.
fascinated in all the things that they can do. And you saw so many drones and all of these different uses, right? Some for warfare, some for industrial use. But it really piqued my interest when you also sent me this article that we want to talk about today about how drones are actually used for good. So yeah, I was fascinated. How was your trip? What did you see? What can you tell us? And just leading into today's theme, how do we use drones for hope and for good?
Yeah, no, thanks, Anele. I think so. The trip itself, the actual trip wasn't great. I mean, I think I was too ambitious, where I essentially left the night before late so that I could be at the conference early the next day, thinking that I would be sleeping in the train. Bad idea. And then be there the whole day and then do exactly the same thing coming back. Bad
Wow.
idea.
Wow.
So I arrived the Friday morning having not properly slept for 24 hours.
Oh my gosh. You
So
know what we
so
call that? We call that boy math.
I know. It's one of those things where you want to relive your youth, but then your body's like, "My man, what are you doing? Like, come on, man. You're no longer 20, man. Get with the program." So, trip aside, the conference was great. So, the conference Exponential Europe 2026 was in a town called Dusseldorf. It's in the north of Germany. And of course, I'm in Munich, so I'm in the south. So, it was really good because it's the premier drone or unmanned systems. So, it's more than just drones, unmanned systems or uncrewed systems that showcases what basically Europe and also its partners, which is the US and other countries, are able to offer. Their customer base, their contingencies, but also it brings about the regulators and the policymakers and also the recipients that of these technologies, specifically like Africa, South America, and endangered kind of locations around the world where they can leverage partnerships at such conferences. So it was an exhibition plus a conference. And so it was, in general, it was amazing just to be there. As a consultant, as MoloMolo Tech, it was really great just to showcase and speak about what we do, see where the different gaps are, connect and make new relationships and new friendships. And that was really great. So I think in terms of just the overall experience, amazing. The theme, of course, is about security and sovereignty, given what's going on here in Europe, specifically when it comes to the war with Ukraine and Russia, and of course NATO and the US being involved. It's sad because it's the majority of the conference and the exhibition was all about you know weapons of war, which a drone can be and be very effective, unfortunately. So I think it was great. It was great to see the kind of different things, speak to different people, and of course just get a feel for what is everybody focusing on, and do I want to be part of it? That's the big question. So yeah, I mean, to your second point regarding kind of on the other hand, there's a this is something that for me fascinated. I mean, I know about it. I just didn't know it's now a thing. that's really happening. So in the theme of Easter, there's a specific church. I forgot what it's called, but this church essentially is using swarming of drones, and these are obviously smaller drones. They're not, they don't carry bombs. I mean, they just carry lights. That's it. And but they use these drones to do light shows free of
Wow.
charge from I think the 28th of March until the 4th of April
Sure.
for everybody who's willing to be. I think it's a Church of Texas. There you go. So it's in Texas. And these are Easter celebrations. So, I'll doing the kind of the whole story of kind of, the passage of Jesus, the cross, the tomb being open, the resurrection. And these are all light shows free of charge that everybody can just go outside and just look up in the sky and just meditate and see.
Sure.
And it narrates kind of it's visual narratives of hope and renewal and community. So people come together, they eat outside, and the light show, which is consists of I think over 1,000 drones, if I'm not mistaken, or hundreds of
Sure.
drones, is the core, and hence the contrast. The contrast between a really, really high tech, really polished conference like Exponential that costed hundreds of thousands of euros, and for specific application like military and surveillance and industrial scale and so forth. And yet on the other hand, you have kind of the same technology at the core, right? Flying things, drones, but it's used for hope and renewal and bringing people together and eating and really sharing stories. And that's really up today's message, today's podcast really is how can that be? And it brings a key thing about technology being neutral. And that's what I want to bring up to you, Anele. I mean, and of course, we can go back and forth on this, but technology is neutral. AI is neutral, you know? But the question is, who defines the neutrality? That's always in my mind. Like, who defines what is neutral? What's your view on this, given the duality of what I've witnessed?
Yeah, I mean, what you've just mentioned with the duality of what you've just mentioned, is it reminds me of this story about this boy who asks his grandfather about, whether people are bad or good. And he's like, look, people have two wolves in them, right? So if you feed the good wolf, then, that's the wolf that gets fed. If you feed the bad wolf, then that's the wolf that gets fed. And I think it's the same when it comes to technology and specifically drones. I think there's so many different uses for the technology that we have, but we can also, input data to either feed the goodness of technology, or we can feed the negatives. We can use it for warfare, and at the same time, we can use it to feed the hungry. We can use it to put up amazing light shows that bring together communities. And I think that's where, yeah, I think that's what I think. I think we can either feed it for good or feed it for bad. Um, but it's still such a necessary um, tool to have, right? Especially because it has enabled um, things such as those like social cohesion.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think so of course, we do try and bring some level of systems thinking into this. And there's a couple of things that I'm thinking about, is purpose or intent. There's a specific word that is used in system engineering called intent. What is the intent of this product, of the system? What is it intended to do? And yet intention is not the technology itself. Intent is what we want to get out of it. Um, and yet that intent, that purpose shapes the whole architecture that we build around that technology. Everything. Everything. And not only, and that's the funny part, is that it even rationalizes the intent, helps us to rationalize why it's important.
Sure.
Just remember that the intent is so powerful, it can help us rationalize why it's crucial for me to do this. Whether it kills people or it helps them find their way spiritually, the intent helps the whole thing work. The intent helps you to find money, helps you to find sponsors, helps you to pitch, helps you to, when when you feel rejected, you come back up. And the intent and the purpose helps and drives all of that.
Sure.
Now, that's the one point. The other thing that I think about is how technology in itself amplifies the values that we have, right? Technology amplifies the values that we have. What does that mean? It means that what we are ethically aligned with, or what we're ethically okay with, or morally okay with. Like, I'm okay if I have if I'm a gun manufacturer, I'm okay in a way of some people using it to kill each other.
Sure.
I'm okay with it. Ethically,
Yeah.
I'm not doing it, but I'm okay with the risk of it being used by someone else, and the intent, even though it's to protect, is now to go and kill.
Sure.
But I'm okay with that. And but technology amplifies amplifies that. It just shows, okay, look, you can do it, and do it faster, and do it better, and make more guns, and even more efficient. And funny enough, but that's all of that is design. You design these things. It's not coincidence. Anele.
Yeah.
It's not coincidence. And sometimes we think like, oh no, it just happened. Things. No, your
Yeah.
intent, the fact that you allowed it to happen, and it just end up having some adverse behavior you didn't see. It was built in. You just didn't see it. Remember, we talked about kind of the hidden dynamics. The past few
Mm,
episodes. That's what
mm,
this is.
mm.
So I guess the question really is to you, Anele, and of course to me as well, is how do we ensure, or how do we identify when a system is really not well thought out when it comes to technology that it's trying to use? What are some things that we need to kind of think about when a system that has been designed, so, whether a drone or, whatever it is, around a technology that is not really well thought out and could have a devastating impact? What would you
Sure.
say?
As you were talking, I started thinking about the portion where you mentioned in the conference where there were some policymakers and regulators as well. And I
Mhm.
think it's important to bring in some of those actors again at a systems thinking level. Let's bring in all the actors who look at the technology aspect of it, the usability aspect of these machines, the intent of these machines. And I think it should also just um, then come, to answer what you just asked, to what is the extent, basically. And I think ultimately, once technology, such as drones, for example, starts to cross some ethical boundaries, I think that's when policy and regulation can really come in and kind of prevent some of those. I think we can already kind of predict some of the ways, and we can live some of the through some of those experiences, such as privacy issues. The airspace itself has been regulated so that drones don't, for example, fly over certain buildings where we need information to be protected, um, or even private homes. I think it's also important that there are there is some of that regulation because, you know, criminals are very creative people as well.
That's right.
You can, you know what I mean? You can, you can really figure
Yes.
out a way
Hey,
to use a drone.
especially when you need money. When you need money.
You
You're
know what
very
I
creative.
mean? Like, and in South Africa alone, the unemployment rate is so high. You can imagine the amounts of really smart kids who are just sitting at home creating machines and flying.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm just saying, I think policy and regulation would really play an important hand. But I think understanding the boundaries that are being crossed, ethical boundaries, like, but how do you measure that when you want to have, for example, a delivery service come and deliver food, but at the same time, you've got these parameters for privacy, right? So I
Yep.
think for
Yep.
me, ultimately, everything comes down to policy and regulation and understanding of the ethical boundaries that these machines could cross because
Yeah.
they're real.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's such an important topic because I mean, one could even argue, and I'm playing devil's advocate now, one could even argue that there are some real disadvantages of having 1,000 drones swarming in the sky telling the story of Jesus.
Why? Tell
It
me.
it takes one drone, Daniela, it takes one drone to misbehave, and they don't want to tell the story right. And now they want to disturb all the other drones. Now it's no longer a story. It's a horror story. It's a drones are flying out of the sky. Drones are flying out of the sky. They're thinking, this is not about Jesus anymore. No, 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 no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have hope. I have fear. I'm not coming back. I'm not coming back. This show has turned into a horror show. So, so I mean, being funny, but it's true because I
Yeah,
think it goes back to one of the things that we talked about, which is the fragility of systems.
sure.
You know, the hidden dynamics. What measures policies? Yes, I think it's true, but policy that cannot be enforced is just a piece of paper.
Mm,
You know, it's just a piece of
yeah,
paper. Policy that
yeah.
cannot be enforced is just a piece of paper, and I think that's one of the number one reasons why developing countries are structurally stuck, because we have some of the best policies, and you know our administrators in governments are the most educated people in Africa. Listen to the stat: the most educated educated people in most African countries are in administration.
Sure.
Just rem- just think about that fact, and whether it's true or not. Just think about it. The most
Yeah.
educated people in most African countries are in administration. But it but the point is, it doesn't take just you being clever to make things work.
Mm,
You've gotta have a means to enforce. You gotta have a means to make
mm,
it to make it coherent, to make it consistent, to make it, incentivized.
sure. And I
Um,
guess you also have to
yeah,
have decision-making abilities. Decisions have to be made, otherwise nothing happens, right? So if you don't decide on the licensing of flying drones and who
mhm,
participates in a drone show, do you need a special license for that? If you're flying
yeah,
at a certain height above, Earth level, who regulates that so that accidents don't happen and
mhm,
people can enjoy a good drone show? If drones are being sold everywhere, who gets to fly them and what are the regulations? You know what I
yeah,
mean? So I think this is something that we definitely should expand on in the future.
yeah,
I think I definitely want to explore more into what's into this technology and into how life changing it really can be, because on a practical level there's so many uses for drones in agriculture, even in cleaning services. I've seen there's some window cleaning drones and I think that's awesome.
yeah.
But what are the barriers to entry, for example, into industry, and what are some of the best uses for drones, and what are the worst uses, right? And how do
Mhm.
we start as a society to understand this technology before it's too late, before they crash into each other?
Yeah. No, I think, I mean, I posted something on LinkedIn. It was a bit controversial, but I try to keep it above board, where I essentially shot at the conference exponential by saying that, people were really thinking linearly. They were thinking about just add-ons, but they were not really thinking about, am I really solving the right problem?
Mm,
Um, I mean, I've been around drones for a long time. I did my master's on drones. I did my
wow.
PhD to some degree on drones. I've been around drones. I started UAV for Africa quite a few years back. helping teenagers and graduates and postgrads as well, learn every aspect around drone design and research and development. So I know drones in a way, but the one thing that I always found kind of difficult is the human brain is not able to, unless it's been trained, to really abstract the problem. And because what a drone fundamentally causes you to do is just take take what it is and then see what application you can best use it in, right?
Mm,
But it should other actually be the other way around, is to say, what are the most critical applications that we are struggling to do that a drone design suited for that can be developed for?
wow.
I think that's the key. And unfortunately, right now it's always the other way around, where I've got this brilliant drone idea, I can do that. Let me find where I
Mm,
can use it. And if I don't find it, I manufacture it, right? I manufacture
sure.
the application. Oh, you can do this, but is it really needed? This is a manufacturing, my friend. And I think, of course, churches I will tell you why it's difficult, because drones are fundamentally difficult to design. It's not an easy. It's not a knife. It's not a drill. It's not a it's not a watch. It's something that flies, that has so many implications on both negative and positive if something happens to it. So
Mm,
fundamentally, it's a hard science to get right, but that doesn't mean it should be divorced from the actual problems of society. Like
mm,
what are the actual problems? Does a drone need to fly all the time? Does it to perform its
mm.
function? Can it have a dual function?
But
You
then
know,
is it a drone if it's like
no,
crawling on the ground?
but I mean that's I know, right? I mean
Yeah.
that's true. It's like when you see a drone crawling, you're thinking, yeah, this is another exorcist type things. How man, this drone is sick, man. Hey man, this drone is just on the ground. Propellers are busy. Busy. It's like, man, this drone is sick. It's sick drone. But it's a good question, is it? But then I feel that that's the right kind of way of discussing this, to say, is a drone in a classical way needed for this application? Really?
Mm,
For farming, is really a drone
mm,
overhead really the best thing that's needed for
mm,
this farm? Really?
mm. So it's almost
And
like we're creating problems.
because exactly, we're creating other problems, because now we've
Mm,
got this really expensive device, in my view, a
mm,
toy that does a job that potentially was never needed in the first place to be done, or at least in this way.
mm,
So is it really solving a problem?
mm.
And I think, guess what, Anele? We've got our first question of
Yay.
MoloMolo Tech Talk, and it's from Ahmed Rufai. Thanks, Ahmed, for joining. I believe Ahmed is in Nigeria. It says, I believe drones are not as complex as you mentioned. Take a look at the Sahid 136 drones, its effectiveness in warfare against sophisticated systems such as the TAD and Arrow 3 systems. Ooh, that's a very heavy, he's name dropping drones here.
Yeah, I don't even know.
But I will try. I don't know if we have a lot of time, but I will try and answer Ahmed very quickly. I think I think drones in its use can be incredibly easy to operate. And I think once you get to kind of learn how a drone operates, it's incredibly easy to operate. Just like, nobody really thinks twice about how to operate a washing machine once you've kind of figured out the buttons. But the point here is the technology behind how you made this simple is the question, right? You don't know what type of science went into designing a washing machine and to make it simple to operate each time, every time, all the time. And it's the same thing with the drone. There are fundamental technologies like GPS technology and electromagnetism technology, and the ability for GPS to remain an accuracy of 5 meters, which we all have, but none of us really think about the research that and the equations of motions that needs to be calculated for the autopilot in that drone that allows you to have stability and take pictures that are so nice and clear. And that's what I'm talking about. So, but thanks, Ahmed, for the question, because it's true. You can really make drones as simple as possible and not as expensive, and really get to the root cause of a simple design or a simple operation. Let's put it that way. So, very good question, Ahmed. Really, really good question. But Anele, final words on this. Really, I mean, I think we pretty much run our course. What is your take on just how we should really see technology in general going forward, and how the things that we can definitely kind of improve in our adopting of technology?
I think ethical consideration for everything that we do create. Again, what's the intention? Are we solving an existing problem that needs this as a solution? And how does it cross the boundaries of of ethics, of people's privacy, and of people's well-being?
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
think we should apply that to all inventions and technological interventions.
Oh, mic drop, really. With that said, Anele, thank you for such a interesting conversation. Happy Easter, everybody. Drones are here to stay, but let's think holistically. Let's think about how we best use technology in the way we do things, and let's solve actual problems that pain us on a day-to-day. I'm Dr. PK. This was Anele. This was another episode of MoloMolo Tech Talk. Happy Easter. Let's remember why.
Happy Easter, everyone.
Let's remember why we are here. Until next time. Cheers.